Welcome everyone to the nattiest news show in the world, Natty News, going through your eardrums. My name is Adam the Nanny, and I am joined with the modern day Adonis, the half natty prince himself, Pat. Pat, how are you doing? Oh, look at those arms, look at those biceps, those pythons. How are you doing, Pat?
Oh man, I'm doing great. You listeners will know it's late because I think you just changed the intro a little bit.
I think a lot of the 90s listeners know that I kind of switch it up every couple of times. Like, I get kind of tired of saying the same thing. Gotta keep everyone on their feet.
Absolutely. But I'm doing great. Today I played my first game of pickleball, and I used to knock it for being like an old person sport. It's so much fun. Like it's almost better than tennis already because kind of like the level of play you need for it to be fun is so much lower. So I was just saying to Anwar in the pre-show that on our next trip we're gonna get our friends together and have a tournament.
And I think there's something to be respected about low skill level sports because I kind of feel like at our age we're getting to a point where it's going to be a little hard to master new sports that are really complex. So I'm all for low skill level sports. Like I want to try field bowling. Like, have you seen that sometimes? Some old people
Lawn bowling?
Yeah, lawn bowling. My mistake. Like I want to try that. That seems fun.
Yeah, my uncle is like might be in his early 80s. He loves lawn bowling.
Oh man, he probably can kick our ass at it. I feel like it's a game of finesse, not strength.
Yeah, well, I don't know about lawn bowling, but regular bowling, I gutter every other ball. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't regular bowl either. Like I still do the granny bowl. I have no shame in it.
Dude, it's all good. How's your week been?
It's been pretty solid. I kind of was doing a lot of work and stuff, and so couldn't get too many workouts in. But I did do a body weight workout yesterday, and I've still been practicing my cartwheels. So they're coming up, man. They're close. I'm almost there.
Nice, man. Well, it's a quite a week for us at Natty News. I haven't worked out at all since national, so we're making no gains this week. But we will be talking about some gains later.
Actually, yeah, no, this has been a zero gains week. I mean, you have an excuse, so you were just competing in a national tournament, so you deserve a break, man. Don't touch a barbell for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, anyways, enough about us. It's time for the listeners' Natty News Recap, our new segment where we talk about the real news going on in the fitness world. So, Pat, lay some news on me. Tell me, what's going on in the fitness world?
Let's do it. So we're going to start with more, I guess, proximal local news. So we're going to start with Canada. For those of you who don't know, Esports is like the Canadian equivalent of NCAA, and it is officially back this fall. So I was working for varsity athletes the last 2 years. Unfortunately, this year I won't get to work under them as they start competing, but excited to see hopefully see my UBC Thunderbirds make some gains and make some wins. But almost more excitedly, a new sport has just been added to Esports, and that is Esports. So it's officially, I think they're going to do their preseason tournament in August, and I think it's going to be added to the roster. So it's going to be interesting. I think in the near future, then esport athletes will be varsity athletes.
Yeah, like, I mean, isn't it in Korea where you have these esports athletes who are dating like supermodels? Like they're like top League of Legends players, like the same as Tom Brady here.
Yeah, crushed. I mean, yeah, they're high performance athletes.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see in not that long where esports was kind of a niche thing to now being like globally known, and there's like hundreds of millions of dollars in it. Like it actually is a huge thing nowadays, which is great for those athletes and people who enjoy watching it too. Here's a bit of a question though. Do you think esports should be entered in the Olympics, Pat?
No. I just think the Olympics is like, it's for like physical feats, and like at the end of the day, video games are like, they're your thumbs, and that doesn't make them any less competitive. They're very, very competitive. But there's a lot of sports that just aren't at the Olympics that are very competitive, right? Like baseball is not in the Olympics. Super high level sport, it just isn't, right? And I think I don't even think esports needs to be in the Olympics for it to be credible, right? And if if it got added, there'd be kind of questions like which games are eligible to be added. Like, like is it League of Legends? Is it like, I don't know, Dota Underlords, Wii Sports, right? Like, how do you decide which games are worthy of it? So I don't think it should be in the Olympics.
I'm actually not against esports being added to the Olympics. I think the thing I have more of an issue with, or not even issue, but problem with, is just like the problem with any video game is it kind of has a shorter longevity. Like, I mean, you do have games like League of Legends, which have been popular for a while, but like I do imagine eventually it's gonna phase out. Eventually, some new games are gonna come out. So I would say you should add chess to the Olympics because chess has been like a game going on for centuries. It's actually getting more popular now than ever. So I kind of feel like if we want to add in games and like, I guess, mental sports, I think chess would be a great addition. But yeah, I think though there's enough of a platform for all of those to do well, especially with Twitch now. Like, man, I think people like watch more esports than they do maybe real sports.
Yeah, I just don't. It doesn't even need the Olympics. That's the thing, right?
It doesn't even need a platform
to succeed, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, where else do you watch fencing? Like, literally, besides the Olympics, I've never seen a fencing match, even though it's a super cool sport.
One thing I thought about, like, a lot of these Olympic sports are sports that, like, 80% of them are sports that people don't watch otherwise. Like, I don't even watch sprinting. Like, let's be real. I don't watch sprinting unless it's every 4 years.
Yeah, actually, like, it's kind of like a platform for these smaller sports or, like, less known sports to kind of show off where... Yeah, actually, I kind of like that idea of it to keep it to more niche sports, to give them a platform because they deserve it. All those athletes work so hard.
Yeah, exactly. Save it for that. And there's a limited number of sports, right? So if something comes in, something is going to start coming out.
Oh, man, yeah. No, I was upset when they were about to take out wrestling. How could you take out the classic sport?
Wrestling's one of the OGs, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like, how could you take that out?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a good story. You got any other Natty news recap?
Yeah, we're moving on. So we're moving up to the United States, and we're shouting out one of our Natty Hall of Fame inductees, who's actually a pro basketball player. His name is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Probably pronounced it wrong, but our guy Giannis is potentially 2 games away from his first NBA championship, and despite your lack of knowledge about basketball, what you can respect that this guy is the most impressive physical specimen in the NBA. He looks the part, and he definitely moves the part. Guy's 7 feet tall and has like a 7'5" wingspan and has like a 40-inch vertical. It's amazing, and we just want to send him our support.
Yeah, Giannis is a good friend of the show. Really is one of those like natty news consistent listeners. Really great guy. I don't want to take too much credit, but haven't you noticed how he's gotten so much better since he was inducted in the Hall of Fame?
It's the same year that he got into the Natty Hall of Fame that he made it to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, so like I think it's a bit of a correlation. Anyways, Giannis, I know you're listening. Keep up the great work. Keep up those natty gains. I don't want to see any non-natty news about you.
Yeah. No pork burritos and no marijuana, please.
Yeah.
Anwar, do you have some sport news in the world before I go global?
I do. I have actually back to the fitness community. So Phil Heath, one of the most dominant Mr. Olympians of all time. He recently made a statement about how bodybuilding shows need to be reshaped and the athletes need to be paid more. Okay. And I thought that was a really interesting statement. And I also thought it was very interesting, though, about how bodybuilding is going to be in the modern age, with Phil Heath actually not competing at the Arnold Classic because of the lack of pay. And it is interesting now, though.
He's still competing? Like, isn't he done? He's not done?
No, he was coming back. Like, he wants to come back. But actually, the thing is, he might not anymore because of this money issue. I think like it's interesting now because we're seeing that in the old school way, the way that bodybuilders used to make money is that you would just be like the juiciest freak on stage, and then you'd get like some 6-figure contract from like Flex magazine, and then you're good to go, and then you literally have to do nothing else. You just pose, and then boom, you're gonna make all this good money. But nowadays, because of like social media and stuff, like these athletes get nothing, and then they're just expected to do all this extra stuff in order to make money. Like you have all these like bodybuilders, like they might have YouTube channels or Instagrams or streaming. So it really is like a different environment. And I don't know how I feel about Phil Heath's statement. I feel like, is it the show's responsibility to pay them, or is it the athlete's responsibility to go after the money?
Yeah, it's very interesting premise, and I don't know anything about like the audiences it draws in, but like obviously bodybuilding draws in a very niche audience. Like, it's a similar like argument to a lot of other sports we hear about who demand higher pay. I think if there are very little people watching and very people putting money into it, then it's hard to kind of give people more money. But I don't know very much, so like I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, I think this is one that does need to do more research. Like, how much do the event promoters, how much do they make? How much does
Yeah.
like the Olympia make per year compared to how much they're paying people? Yeah, but it is an interesting thing that one of the most dominant Mr. Olympians kind of was talking about the statement of the shift of the whole fitness bodybuilding industry. So I thought it was a little interesting.
Yeah, that's
Any, Anyways, that is the end of your Natty News recap.
one
So.
more.
Oh, one more? Oh, damn. Sorry.
We got
Jumped
one
the
more.
gun.
Well, we got to give the weekly Olympic recap because they're starting in a week from now.
Oh, yes.
23rd, right? July 23rd is when it starts. So hopefully we'll be watching lots and recapping some. But, unfortunately, Japan continues to be in a state of national emergency. They're actually having another bit of a peak in terms of COVID in Tokyo at the moment. And from the current news, so basically at the Olympics, athletes are literally not allowed to interact with the public. Like they can't go to restaurants, they can't talk to fans, they can't like walk the streets in the daytime, and the public is not allowed to interact with the athletes either. Like they don't get to go to their hotel and like near that area. Like it's a bubble. Like it's like a bubble atmosphere that the athletes are going to be in, which is, man, just to hear it that way, like no interaction on both ends, that's crazy. Like it's I feel like there's going to be a lot of sadness to go with it, for sure.
I also just saw today that they confirmed the first COVID case in the Olympic Village in Japan.
Oh man, already? Which
already?
team?
It hasn't even started yet. So
Yeah.
I can completely understand if some athletes don't feel safe going. So it's going to be a very interesting Olympics, but we'll see how everything happens, and definitely hope for the safety of the Japanese people too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as I really love sports, like it's a lot of people rolling in from a lot of different countries, not all of which have vaccines. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we'll be watching. And on the bright side, one thing that we should all look for is that our Canadian hero Christine Sinclair from women's soccer is going to her 4th Olympics, and you got to give salutes to anyone who's doing 4 Olympics. But she's also the all-time leading international goal scorer in soccer, men or women. So we'll be vying for her to get her third medal.
That is inhuman, being a top-tier athlete for 16 years.
Yeah,
like, that's insane.
Very
That's
elite
insane.
group. Very elite group. Like that's like the top of each sport. Like that's like your LeBrons, Tom Brady's, Roger Federer, Serena Williams, like those type of people.
Yeah, Jason Tatum.
He's 25. No Jason Tatum praise here yet.
For those who don't know, Jason Tatum's my favorite basketball player, so gotta give him some respect.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is it for our actual news on Natty News for now.
Perfect. All right. Natty News recap done. Now it's time for your regular classic Natty News. And before we get started with today's topic, I want to give a shout out to friend of the show, listener, and actually personal friend of Pat and myself, Syra. Syra gave us a great comment saying that she was asking for some advice on, how to gain some weight, how to bulk up, how to gain some of those good natty gains. And so me and Pat actually wanted to look into it, want to do some research, kind of learn the science of bulking. So I want to give a huge shout out to Syra for the great comment, gave us some great ideas. And if you want, Syra herself is a content creator. She has a website, www get-flicks.com, where she does like these little movie review essay sort of stuff. And reading a few of them, she definitely has some good taste. I'm happy to say that we both agree The Desolation of Smaug is the best Hobbit movie, and the original Batman trilogy, the Christopher Nolan one, is the greatest superhero trilogy of all time. So, Syra, thank you for having good taste. But yeah, so today's talk is going to be about bulking. We all hear it. We all hear that if you want to get big, you got to eat big. You got to put on like 80 pounds of mass and just shred it off, and then you're going to be a lean, mean fighting machine. But how true is it? I feel like the whole bulking and cutting thing is one of the biggest bro science stuff out there. I don't know if I truly believe the whole science of just like bulking up super big and then cutting, and you're just gonna have so much lean muscle mass.
Yeah, well, again, first of all, thanks to Syra. But I guess let's jump into this with a little bit of our own experience. So some of you have heard our stories before about how our bodies have changed through the years. But Anna, you want to give us your story? Have you done any bulking in your life?
Oh, baby, I have. I want to kind of separate this between two types of things, because I think there is the whole bulking where you stop working out and you get a little chubby. Like we all had at the beginning of coronavirus, we were all just like sitting around eating, and you add on those COVID-19 pounds. So I'm not going to count that, but actual planned bulking was probably my first one, and my largest one was during high school, between grade 11 and 12. I started doing a more serious bulk just because I really wanted to get as strong as possible. I wanted to see how strong I could really get. So I think I started off at like 170, and I think the heaviest I got was like maybe 230, 240. So it was like a lot. And I definitely did get stronger. I went from like deadlifting 385 to doing 550. And so like I definitely did make a lot of gains, but kind of the process of then losing the weight and then seeing where I was at the end of the whole process kind of makes me think it wasn't worth it. And
yeah. And then what kind of weight are you at now? Have you done a bulk since?
So I did do I was doing a bulk before the coronavirus. So pre-COVID, I wanted to add in some muscle mass. So I was walking around, I think about 185 before COVID. And so I wanted to bulk up a little over 200. But then again, you know what happened with COVID.
I mean, you put the weight on.
I put the weight on, but I didn't work out hard, so I didn't really gain much muscle. So I would say I've done like mini bulks and cuts, but that was probably the big one. I think that's my big experience from it. And we can go more into about like the feelings of it, but I think one of the big things about it was after a certain while, it's just not worth it. Like you just feel like crap from all the added weight. You also you don't like how you look either, which is a huge thing. And 3-2 is like once you cut off the weight, you do get a lot of that muscle and strength goes away. Like it's not as concrete as you think. So it is kind of like, it's not like a cheat where if you just gain a lot of weight and cut it fast, you're going to be super strong. It's kind of like there's no quick way about building a strong muscular physique.
Great. I mean, that's probably the most important piece of advice, right? So I'll go a little bit into my story. That's good. We have different ideas because I don't think I've ever done like a bulk. I am much more like your needs to stay low body fat example, especially like the younger I was, like I was really obsessed with keeping my abs, keeping low body fat. So I've never gone on a big bulk, but so when I started working out in grade like 9 or so, I was like 145. I think when the time I left high school, I was like 160, 165. And then nowadays, comfortably, I'm like 185 to 190. So there's been some weight gain in there, but I have never done a true bulk. So I'm kind of an example of like another way. So I've always honestly like really just lifted, eaten whatever I want, like not really counting, and then just progressively overloading. And over the course of many years, I've put on muscle that way. So never many bulks, a lot of cuts, a lot of it due to vanity. But like nowadays, a lot of the time, I'm cutting just due to weightlifting, to make weight. But yeah, So no bulks on my end.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like we had exact opposite experiences because like you gained weight in like the slow, I guess, natural way of just continuously working out. You're obviously going to add muscle mass, and I wanted to just do like a huge bulk, just to try to cheat the system, as I would say. And I think I kind of fell for the bro science because one of the things, and we can talk about this and the science of it, but it's like people always assume you need like a large caloric surplus to gain muscle, and that's not really true. Like you don't actually need that much more surplus to actually gain muscle.
Correct.
And so people go overboard with it, where they think they have to eat like 6, 7, 8,000 calories. Where if you're a natural lifter, there is no way you need that. Like I cannot think of a single natural lifter who needs to eat that much calories.
Yeah, maybe if you like to run like distance and stuff, and for whatever reason you want to gain muscle at the same time, that's like the only person.
True. Yeah, if you're like, yeah, no, that's a good point. If you're like a marathon runner on one side and then you also want to add like 2 inches to your bicep, yeah, okay, but that's a special type of human being.
Yes, absolutely. Well, then looking back on that, on our own experience, what if you had 1 or 2 things that you wish you did differently? I mean, you kind of already alluded it, but what would you have done?
I definitely would have taken the time with it. I think one of the big things is this: instead of doing like a big bulk, I would do like, well, kind of with the science we know now, what I would probably do is do a whole like do like a mini bulk for like a couple months, and then set it to like a maintenance calories, like a kind of a reset mode. Not exactly a cut, but most of just like a maintenance mode. See where I'm at, reevaluate everything. How am I feeling? Am I happy with how everything is? If not, then we can reevaluate. But if no, so, then maybe go on another kind of like 2-3 month bulk cycle. And then back to the kind of maintenance period. I think that would have been better than just going all out. And by also like a mini bulk, I'm talking about maybe like 2,800 calories, 3,000 calories a day. So I think I was taking in almost 4,500 calories a day. So kind of cutting that down lower. I would say though, I wouldn't call that a clean bulk because people have this idea that if you just eat healthy food on a bulk, you're not going to gain fat. And I think that's another myth where like a clean bulk, it doesn't really exist. There's no bulk where you're not going to gain fat. Like you could eat all the chicken breast and broccoli, but if you go over your caloric limit, you're going to gain fat.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, like just off the top of my head, like a diet. Let's say you ate like avocado, fried eggs, and like I don't know, like a salad, even like a salad, right? But like the avocado and eggs, they like add up quick. Like if your metabolism's slow, you gain fat on that, and it looks great, looks healthy. It is healthy, but it's just like it's just it's a calories in, calories out thing to some extent.
Yeah. Like I think though, like, and we've talked about this extensively. Like we like to eat a whole food diet just because you feel good eating that food. Like when you eat like your vegetables, when you eat like good fat, you just feel good. But it doesn't like magically burn fat or anything. You just feel good about yourself.
Yeah, it's just specificity, right? Like, yeah, you gotta work to your goal. It's losing weight and gaining weight. Like, let's be real, it's not always about health. You know, some of it's just for personal goals, so that needs to be kept in mind. Just because it's healthy doesn't mean it's getting you to that goal if that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, there are extremes where if you're extremely malnourished or extremely heavier, it is kind of an idea that like the health can be affected. But otherwise, you're right. Like losing weight or gaining weight cannot always be a healthy thing. It just matters how you're doing it and also where your body is at a certain point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the idea of putting on copious amount of muscles is not natural. Like, it's fine. Like that's okay, right? Like we enjoy doing this type of thing, but it's like it's a stressor to your body, and it needs to be done with the right strategy, which we'll get into. Shortly.
Another thing actually I do regret about my bulking is that when I started bulking up, I stopped doing as much cardio. And I do regret that because before I used to do always quite a bit of cardio. If you recall, I used to do like track and field and like the cross country and stuff. And I kind of put that as hold because I really wanted to focus on strength. But
Yeah, that was the bro science too back in the day.
Yeah, it
Don't
was
do
because like
cardio when you bulk. That was the thing.
it was a huge part because it was like, oh, cardio kills your gains. If you start running, your body is gonna just burn up those muscle tissues no matter how much you eat. So you're not supposed to do cardio ever. And I really regret that because although I think I do have decent cardio, I could have been so much better if I just kept it up for longer and longer. And I enjoy doing cardio too.
Yeah, that's there was a lot of bad advice on the internet. And like we deeply believe that stuff. And also, to contrast, the idea of doing extra cardio and cutting is not always the best idea because
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but like it's a lot of work to burn 500 calories doing cardio. And like you do that, you get tired, you get really hungry. To eat back 500, there's nothing. 10 sec, I can eat that in 3 minutes. So like do your cardio because it's a healthy thing to do and do something you enjoy doing. But if you're using that solely to lose weight, I think it's kind of the hard way to do it.
Yeah, no, I remember like the fitness communities and online forums, they had such an animosity against cardio. Like it was literally cardio could not go anywhere near weightlifting. Like if you're working out trying to gain muscle, you're not supposed to even don't you dare step on a treadmill.
Yeah, I think these experts were just mad that their cardio was trash.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's like another thing. So I think like you should do cardio year round. There's never a reason not to. There's so many benefits to it, and of course, like fun cardio. Like if you don't like running, don't run. Do something else. But it really is an important thing. So I think those are the big things. I wish I took it slower, and I wish I kept up cardio. I think those are my big two takeaways from my bulking thing. Like there's no easy way out. There's no just like eat a ton and just cheat the system. You have to put in the years. You have to put in the work. You have to take it slow.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For me, like I don't know if I regret too much, but I think I should have just let myself bulk a little bit. Like I was like I think I was just like eating too little for a lot of the time. And because honestly the one of the most surefire ways to strength is to put on muscle. Like eventually, like for me as a weightlifter, when I hit my plateau, the last remaining method for me to put on strength is to be as muscular as I can possibly be in my weight class. And I think that's something I'll probably start thinking about applying now because like right now I'm in off season. I got maybe 4 months to my next competition. It's a great chance to put on even like 2-3 pounds of quality muscle in the right places. That's huge, right? If I can learn to use that correctly. So letting myself bulk and then being strategic about it. I often just like if I'm not cutting, I just like eat like it's just bad. It's just gross sometimes. There's a lot of candy and beverages involved. So like clean bulking, like responsible bulking is like I think huge too, and just like it's healthy too.
Yeah, I feel though like with nutrition wise, both you and I are pretty flexible. Where like as long as you hit your main macros, it's fine to have some of that candy and some of that those drinks and stuff.
Yeah, some I ain't gonna lie, like this week it wasn't some, it was a lot. So that's needs to be I need to be railed under control very soon.
Hey, well, you know what? We have to do a natty boot camp.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's Pat goes on a 5K run. If you guys don't see me again, you know what happened.
Yeah. Do you feel like if you just let your body bulk up like naturally, like not doing these continuous cuts, do you think you would be bigger than you are now or like stronger than you are now?
Yeah, I think so. For all I may look kind of strong, I consider myself very weak. Like just off the top of my head. I went back like just doing like shoulder presses. I have not like 50 pounds for like maybe 8 to 10 reps is still my maximum after a bunch of years. We're talking like back to like maybe high school years. So I don't know if I put on a lot of mass there. I put on tons of mass in my legs, right? But like upper body, there's so much. I think there's so much more I could have done. I think my back, like my posterior chain, is pretty good, but like out in front, like shoulders, chest, um, biceps, grip strength, like all those things, I could have made huge gains. I could be way bigger than I am right now.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I also feel like though the way we were training back then too was so posterior chain dominated. Like we used to do so much back work. Like I really feel like we didn't put enough emphasis on the bodybuilding bro workouts like chest and biceps.
I mean, it's probably better than like if we were gonna skip some stuff, it was probably like the better way to go.
Yeah, no, that's true. You're right about that. Um, yeah, and kind of an going back to the idea of bulking. One of the things, and going back to actually the original question we got from Syra, was about how she wants to gain some weight, and looking at the calories she put, it seems like a pretty reasonable thing. She seems pretty smart that she wants to do kind of like a slower bulk, gain a little weight. But a common problem people have with bulking is actually it's hard to eat enough food.
Yeah.
It really is, and I even remember like I love food. Like I do eat a lot, and I eat some calorically heavy foods too. I love my milk, I love my eggs, I love my avocados. So it can be pretty easy for me to get those 2,000 calories. But I remember even when I was trying to bulk up, it was difficult to eat enough. Like it was a struggle to get enough calories in, and I don't know. I mean, I guess from your experience, maybe you don't have any, but do you have any advice for that on how you would recommend someone who wants to bulk up? They want to do it a proper way, but it's just hard to eat enough. It's just hard to get into a caloric surplus.
Absolutely. Well, I don't have personal experience too much. I've helped some clients through it. So the easiest way is probably liquid. It's got to be liquid because you can reel off like 1,000-calorie shake very easily. So like, let's take your basic protein shake. So we're talking protein and like some sort of milk, whatever, animal milk, nut milk, doesn't matter. That's going to put you at like 200 calories, right? But now we can upgrade. So let's put in a cup of fruit. So that puts us at like 300-ish. That's not much of a change. But then let's do like 1 to 2 tablespoons of like almond butter. Or if you don't like almond butter, you can go like MCT oil. That doesn't really taste like anything, right? So now your shake is like 500 calories. You can add something like chia seeds or whatnot, or a banana. Like bananas are high in calories. So then all of a sudden you've got like a 600-700 calorie shake that you can just like down, right? Even if you just drink it slowly. Let's say you were at maintenance before. If you can get that 700 calorie shake, 700 calories over the span of a week is over 3,500 calories. So that's over a pound. That's going to put you in your quota, right? And even if you have to force yourself a little bit, we can get down a smoothie. If you just don't like eating, sometimes you just don't like eating. Like that's not going to be that great. So that's number one. Number two is picking foods that are easy to eat a lot of. Like rice is friggin' easy to eat. Like it's nothing, right? It's like air. Like, so if you're focusing on a diet, one of the things I've heard is people are like, oh, we're trying to do like healthy snacks. We're eating like apples and stuff. You're not going to get anywhere bulking with apples. It's like 70 calories in the whole apple. There's fiber. You're not going to get anywhere with that. Get like, an extra cup of rice, or like rice meal or oatmeal or whatever. Put in like an easy meat. Like chicken breast is like horrible to eat lots of. Like chicken thigh is a lot more palatable, right? Fried in a little bit of oil. Oil helps, right? That's calories. For vegetable, again, like broccoli is not getting you anywhere in terms of that. Pick like an easy vegetable. I don't know. I can't think. Brain's dead, but like something easy to eat that you can eat a lot more of easily. That would be my 2 pieces of advice. So make it easy for yourself. If you're going the way of like fibrous greens and like starchy vegetables and starchy fruits and like heavy ingredients, it's going to be really hard to get down lots of calories.
I would say though, like you still need to get those macronutrients in though.
Yeah. That's your base. And like I'm not saying don't eat your apples, but like your big meals, like make sure you have those things that are going to help you hit your quota.
Also, thank you for correcting. I meant to say micro instead of macro, but you hit the right thing.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's all some good stuff. Another thing I would recommend is Starting off slow, I think a big problem with both like gaining weight and losing weight is people just jump into it. Where
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go from doing my normal 22,000 calories when I'm gonna eat now 2,800, and
Yeah.
like if you normally aren't that hungry of a person, you're gonna fail. Like
Yes.
that's a big jump. You're gonna feel sick. You're not gonna like it. You're not gonna feel good, and then it's gonna be so hard to keep up. So I would say like do a super small jump, like hardly noticeable. Do like
Exactly.
100, 200 calories for like a week or two. You're not even gonna notice it. That's like a spoonful of peanut butter or something. And then slowly increase it. And also, it allows your body to adjust and get used to it too. So when you can actually feel good with those extra calories, work harder in the gym, make more gains. Like just again, taking it nice and slow and gradually building up. And same thing with cutting. Like if you go from eating 3,000 calories to like 1,500, you're gonna hate yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. I actually do a very similar thing with my people, which is like I always say make like one actionable change and like make yourself do it for 1 week. So, extra smoothie after the work, like rather than like milk and protein your smoothie, like make that like smoothie with more ingredients. And then, if you can do that all the time, then it adds up. And that's like, it's so easy too. Like if it's easy, you're way more likely to stick to it. If it's grueling and you hate it, like it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I would always recommend peanut butter, like peanut, and I'm talking like the real natural stuff. Like I hate the ones that just are like a palm oil emulsified peanut flavored mess.
I have this
Yeah,
gross mess
yeah,
here.
like that crap.
Crunchy. Why did I buy this? Horrible.
Oh,
I don't want you to sponsor me, Jay.
dude, it's actually kind of wild how like different fake peanut butter is from the real stuff. But anyways, there's nothing about peanut butter, but like a spoonful of peanut butter is just great in like all your shakes and everything. Love it. Like I'm not even trying to bulk, and I still do it just because it tastes so good.
Yeah, and if you don't like peanut butter, like almond butter is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, if you're really trying to bulk, whatever, just use Nutella. It's fine.
Well, if you're trying to bulk too, not to foreshadow too much, but our Natty history and Natty legend has a very good bulking routine. So stay in tune to hear about this man's bulking routine. But anyways, Pat, we talked a lot about anecdotal stories. We've talked about our own experiences, but this is Natty news, and we care about science and facts and logic and reason. So let's bring in some of the science. And as we talked about, the big bro science was you want to gain muscle, you have to do bulking and cutting cycles. Is that true?
Well, I mean, eventually, yes. So I'm gonna make the assumption that you bulk because you want to look a certain way, and that usually entails looking at certain body fat. So I mean, it's all manipulation, right? So you have your figure that you want to be. So maybe if your goal is just to be like massive and you don't care about body fat, then you don't have to ever cut. But most people like to like keep at some level of body fat. So there's cutting involved, but I think the nuance is it's not the type of bulking and cutting that you think about where like the bulking is literally just like stuff your face daily. And then the cutting is like grueling cardio, nothing but vegetables, chicken breasts. Like it's not like that. It doesn't need to be that extreme on both ends.
So a popular saying is that you can't gain muscle without a caloric surplus. Is that true, or is it possible? And I'm not talking about beginner lifters, because beginner lifters can gain muscle doing literally anything. But let's say intermediate. Could an intermediate lifter gain muscle while being at a caloric maintenance or a caloric deficit?
Yeah, there's been controversy in the research. I think in a deficit for an experienced person, very, very, very unlikely. It's just, because the body works on like a balance of chemistry, right? So when you're in a cutting stage, you're in a state of loss. You're kind of in a state of like catabolism breakdown, right? So it doesn't really make sense for it to be breaking down and building up, because those are hormonal responses. It's not like it's like we break down fat and we only build up muscle. Like it's unlikely the body's going to be that nuanced in it. With maintenance, there's been some arguments that people can gain muscle through like some selective use of like fat and whatnot. Like I don't know the hard science, because I just didn't major in muscle physiology, but some argument. But then it just kind of raises the question of like, if this is kind of like an iffy one, and if you do gain muscle, it's lesser than if you did some caloric surplus, why wouldn't you do the caloric surplus? Because that is the ideal way to get to the goal. So to summarize, surplus, that's the best. It works. Maintenance could work if you do it very well, if you train hard. Deficit, quite unlikely due to kind of like the contrasting responses.
It's something also interesting too, and I don't want to focus too much on the cutting aspect too, but I was seeing when we were researching this episode a bit about how cutting, if you do it like at not an extreme caloric deficit, you can actually retain a lot of muscle mass. And
Yeah.
kind of like a proven example is, are you familiar with Alan Thrall?
Yeah. Strongman Alan Thrall. I love Alan Thrall.
Yeah, I love Alan Thrall, friend of this show, a real natty icon. Anyways, I was watching one of his videos when he was talking about his cut, and he actually did a DECA scan. And for those who don't know, a DECA scan is like the most accurate body weight scan you can do. Like, this is every other kind of body fat percentage is kind of BS besides a DECA scan. And it turns out that he lost, like, I think only 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of lean body mass during his cut of like 30 pounds.
Nice. That's but that also does drive home the point that we were talking about, that like it's not like, you know, people think they'll perfectly retain muscle. You do not.
Yeah.
Even the guy like Alan, who obviously knows his shit and is doing it perfectly, you're gonna lose some, and that's the reality of continuing bulking and cutting a lot of weight.
Yeah. But I think kind of the big problem with the traditional bodybuilding way is there was extremes in both ends. It's an extreme that you gain so much weight where you also gain so much fat because, and we can talk about the optimal caloric surplus, but then you also cut an extreme amount. Like you go from like a 4,000 calorie to like 1,500, and it's just like, what's going on?
Exactly. And they cut for like 4 to 12, like real bodybuilders go like 8 to 12 weeks, right? So it's there's a lot of things that I think might not be best practice, especially if you're not a competitive bodybuilder.
Well, especially another thing is those bodybuilders like Arnold, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, like we all know that they're not natty. So like they can do these extreme cuts and bulks because of the performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
They obviously
you were saying?
Go on.
Well, I was gonna say we'll get into some of the research and best practices, but were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say like it kind of is a try and true where so much of this bro science came from non-natural bodybuilding.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the anecdotes are from that stuff. A lot of the training we've talked about, like bodybuilder training, but that's another topic.
All right, but let's go into the real stuff. So, what is like the optimal way to bulk and cut? Like, what is like the optimal caloric surplus, the length of the bulk? Because there's also the whole idea of that when you increase fat into the body, you actually do get less possibility of creating muscle too. Like, you lower your testosterone, it's actually harder for your body to create more muscle cells the heavier you are. So, what's kind of like the optimal way of doing this?
Yeah, and that is true. Like a higher body fat does lend yourself to lower growth hormone levels. So a lot of the research says, and I'm taking a lot of this from Eric Helms, who's one of the most longtime researchers in kind of like muscle building. So he says realistically, most people can build between 0.5 to 1.5% of their body weight in muscle in a month. So let's get a little bit of context into that. The 1.5 is probably if you're more new, and then the 0.5 is, you know, if you're more experienced. I don't know if we're really in the 0.5, but we're also not in the 1.5. So for me, as someone who weighs about 180-ish, that's about 0.9 pounds of muscle per month on the low end. And then at the high end, if I was a noob, it'd be like 2.7 pounds of muscle in a month, right? So when you know that, you can kind of reverse the math a little bit, right? So If I can gain like a pound of muscle in a month, I don't need to gain a pound a week, do I? Because then I'm getting 4 pounds in a month, and not all that's optimal. So we can leave a little bit of leeway. Let's maybe assume I can gain 2 pounds. Then we need to get 2 pounds in a month. So that's 7,000 calories, and we can kind of reverse engineer that, right? I don't know the math, but that's like probably around plus 250 calories a day. So not a very big surplus. So if you know that, there's some fancy calculators out there that tell you your maintenance, right? And then you can start playing around. And a lot of it is experimentation. So let's say you don't gain weight after 2 weeks because math is not like that exact in the real world. Then you add a little bit. You add a little bit, maybe add 250 more until you start getting the results. And the longer you're in the game, right, the better you get at knowing your body. And that's kind of how you get the numbers, I think.
I'm actually kind of shocked with how little you have to eat more to gain muscle.
It's not that much, right? But I think the trick is finding out what really is your maintenance. I really don't think any of those calculators can truly do it, because every person's metabolism is different, and all those activities that they put in little boxes are also very different. Like there's a difference between shooting a basketball around and playing a game of tennis singles. Difference between doing CrossFit class and doing weightlifting. Like things like that the stuff that doesn't cover. So you need to experiment.
It's also about how long have you been living an active lifestyle. Like if you went from sitting around for 20 years and all of a sudden you started running and having a very active life, your metabolism just doesn't change right away. Like there is a whole longevity where if you've been active for 20 years, your metabolism is going to be really good if you were just like sitting around all that time.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not that simple, and that's why I can see why some people just eat maybe just a little bit more, just so you have that leeway, because it's not that exact a science. But I think the point of the moral of the story is, let's not eat a ridiculous amount over what we need, because that's not the right way to do it. I think try something and then scale it up a little bit if it's not working.
Yeah, so like my 4,000, 4,500 calorie bulk was just stupid. Like I just needed like 500, like let's say like I needed 1,000 calories more to gain muscle, and I just threw in another 1,000 calories for fat.
Exactly. So now you know. You know.
That's amazing. How about for like bulking time? Is there like an optimal time frame for how long you should bulk, or is like it's fine as long as you don't gain too much fat?
Yeah. So looking at what Eric said, and I agree with it based on his logic, he suggests a 4-month-ish at least for a bulk, and then like a 1-month cut. So there's several good pieces of rationale for doing at least 4 months. From my opinion, remember how we said that there's some experimentation. You're not going to know what that number is right away. The calculator does not give you the perfect number right at the beginning. So 4 months allows you to play with it, allows you to see what works and doesn't work. And also, you're only getting that like, for someone my weight, I'm getting that like 0.9 pounds a month. That 1 month, maybe it's a bust. Maybe I gain nothing, right? So when you do 4 months, I get, 3-4 pounds of muscle. That's awesome, right? So you need that amount. You need enough time to actually make some, like literally to make some legit gains. And then we don't want to cut for too long, because we've seen some of the problems with cutting for too long is that your body's in a continued state of deficit. You start to lose more muscle. You start to feel like shit. Like no one likes cutting, right? So, and it kind of like tapers off, because with the 4 months, you'll gain a little fat. You can take that off, so you still enjoy looking like a way that you like, and then you can kind of rinse and repeat.
I like that. That's actually a really good way of scheduling it.
Yeah, it's and I think give or take, right? You can go a little longer, maybe a little bit shorter if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway from this for me is just like you don't have to eat that much. Like when you see bodybuilders is having huge tables of food, yelling, "You gotta eat big to get big." It's just like it's so ridiculous now, kind of hearing the science of how it actually works.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of modern bodybuilders are very meticulous. I remember like Jay Cutler, he'd eat just like 6 meals, and it's literally like a lot of carb source and then like meat. So and they were never like ridiculous meals. And for a guy that's like 320 going beyond his genetic limits, I think that's actually pretty logical. You see less and less of the guys just like stuffing their face nowadays. And I guess as science and like, like people start researching it more too, like they become kind of pro bodybuilders or scientists of their own. Like they really know the muscle building stuff too, right? And I think you see less of the people just kind of like the Arnold days where they just all go to the all you can eat and just like stuff down all they could.
That's true. That's true. And yeah, you do have to admire the modern bodybuilders. They really are like they are chemists. They are like scientists. They are in some ways even like medical professionals with all this stuff they do.
Yeah, they are muscle building experts in their own right. Like we really should. Like, yes, they're not natural, but like their opinion does matter. Like because they're masters of putting on muscle.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think the only danger in it is when you assume what works for them will work for everyone.
Yeah.
We don't think of the stacks of drugs they were taking. And again, no hate on using drugs. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to look like that, hey, go for it. But yeah, it's just a dishonesty that really gets us at Natty News.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to those honest bodybuilders out there.
Yeah. Well, no, this has been actually a pretty eye-opening episode for myself too. So I'm really happy we talked about this. Any other kind of scientific tidbits about bulking?
No. I'll present like one more just like short summary just in case you haven't been paying attention. Or traffic got you zoned out for a few minutes. So I think if you want to gain muscle, you should do a bulk. I think staying at maintenance or trying to stay ridiculously lean just isn't optimal. It might work, but it's still just not optimal. And I think you should just pick the pain-free way. But find out, like, acknowledge that you're gaining 0.5 to 1.5% of body weight per month. Kind of figure out how many calories or so that is, and then use that to plan. And it's actually not a ridiculous amount of food, right? So make small changes to your diet. Make sustainable changes, do something that you can do all the time. And if you're going to bulk, let's do it for like at least 3-4 months, because a lot of people like do it for a little bit and then they just quit. They're like, oh, it didn't work. I did it for 1 month. Like you're not going to put on that much muscle in 1 month, but 4 months, you take a before and after, right? Like the scale is great, but the before and after will also give you good information. And I think the more time you might do a bulking cycle, I think the more you understand. And I think I'm still a novice today, so I think I'm gonna start playing with doing like a bulk and cut cycle and see how my body responds and how it helps me transform.
That'd be cool to see. Yeah, it would be crazy to see you in an actual bulk.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's gonna be a small bulk. I mean, in like 3 or 4 months, I should only be gaining like 8, maybe 10 pounds.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's a big takeaway when I decide to kind of want to bulk up again. Still want to try to lose a little bit extra fat right now, but want to go back into bulk. Definitely going to take a lot from this episode.
Yeah, and don't make the mistake of trying to do both. I just don't think that works.
Yeah, no, completely. All right. Well, with that, then we're moving on to our favorite segment, the Natty Legend. These people who just did unbelievable feats of strength. And over here, we have a real person, a real Natty legend. His name was Ghulam Muhammad Butt, or otherwise known as the Great Gamma. Now, I'm going to go by that title. The Great Gamma was an Indian wrestler born in 1878. And now this man, Pat, we talk about bulks. Have you seen The Rock's cheat meal?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Rock toast, French toast.
Yeah, and like he has like the giant pancakes and all this stuff. The Rock's cheat meal is nothing compared to what the Great Gamma used to eat daily. You want to learn how to bulk? Here's what the Great Gamma ate daily. He had 2 desi muttons, which I don't know what's a desi mutton compared to a regular mutton. Is it like just a brown mutton? 6 desi chickens, 10 liters of milk, 1.5 pounds of almond paste, half a liter of ghee, and ghee is clarified butter. It's like drinking oil. Like having 1.5 liters of oil, 6 pounds of butter, 3 buckets of seasonal fruit, and he had a bunch of fruit juices to wash it down.
I just want to say that this man lived to 82. That's
And he
very
looks
impressive.
good. Like all the photos of him, he's a big guy, like big muscular guy, like great physique. But no, so not only was his like diet impressive of how much he ate, but what was really impressive was this guy was an undefeated world-class wrestler. And so he grew up in India and Pakistan and those regions. The villages, they have a lot of community like wrestling spots where you might be like the best guy in his community. And so that's kind of what the Great Gamma was until he started competing in the world scale. He actually went to London and competed with high level wrestlers all across Europe and beat them. He never lost a match. So just an unbelievable athlete and like someone who truly, truly just dedicated himself to the sport and really pushed himself to the real limit. And not only was he well respected in the wrestling world, but Bruce Lee was an avid follower of his training routine and really respected him and actually took inspiration from the Great Gamma in his own training.
Yeah, and one of the exercises he took from him was to do squats. That was one thing that he took from Gamma, because Gamma did a lot of squats, didn't he?
Yeah, you want to know Pat, how many squats do you think you could do in a minute?
45.
See, that's why you're not great. You're not the great Pat. Now, the Great Gamma could do 100 to 200 squats per minute.
Oh
My
boy.
goodness. He could also do 50 to 100 push-ups per minute. So my man was just a machine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much, to be fair, I don't know how much of this information is true, but what is true is that this man was undefeated, and I'm pretty sure he did squats.
So what I'm gonna say is I have nothing but respect to the Great Gamma. So I do think this information is fabricated, but I don't think he lied. I think what happened is someone came, they watched him train, and they're like, man, that's a lot of squats. He probably does 100 squats a minute. And like they probably see him eat, and he probably ate a lot, but they're probably like, oh wow, yeah, he probably ate like that's like 6 pounds of butter he's eating.
Yeah, and going back and referring to another Natty history legend of ours, George Hackenschmidt. At one point, Gamma actually issued a challenge to the whole world for his world champions title, and guys like George Hackenschmidt actually declined. He didn't even dare get in the same ring as this guy. Man's a legend.
Yeah, he was an unbelievably competent grappler. Like the Great Gamma, for someone like myself who is into grappling sports, I really am upset that I didn't know about him before doing some research for him. So I really want to get this out. The Great Gamma, what an absolute natty legend and super badass. And what's really cool is his granddaughter was married to the Prime Minister of Pakistan back in the 80s.
Yeah. So he's got success throughout his family, not just sports.
Yeah, oh man. Well, Great Gamma, I hope you're up there looking down on us. I'm going to be definitely eating some more milk, eating some more butter, going to get those gains, going to try to fight hard for you, Great Gamma.
Apparently, he pioneered almond butter too, years before it became popular with the vegan community.
All right. Well, with that, any last things you want to talk about, Pat?
No, this was awesome. I love that we're kind of expanding our segments that we're having. We got news, we got history, we got education. And Natty News has it all.
Yeah, some could say that Natty News could replace our modern education system. Instead of having kids go through class, they could just listen to Natty News on repeat.
You know how much I genuinely think if a PE class listened to this stuff, it's pretty good. If they there's online PE classes are stupid, but hey, maybe they can listen to Natty News as their education.
I don't know. I don't think we're at that level yet. But hey, if you enjoyed listening to us, definitely leave us a comment, share it, like it, all that good stuff. If you have any good ideas for episodes or anything you want us to talk about, hey, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear. And I definitely learned a lot from this too. So thank you once again, Sire, for the comment.
Yeah, thanks. And with that, we will wrap it up for the week. So Natty news out.
Natty news out.